everybody. Welcome back to Two Peas in a Podcast, episode 12. My goodness. We are your gorgeous hosts, as always. My name is Katie Oman, based in the UK. Nice to meet you.
Hi, my name is Jessica, over here holding it down in the USA.
She really is holding it down, but it's a whole side thing. Anyways, we are really excited to chat to you again today, as always. And the topic this time is the power of creativity. Now, I chose this topic, and I know that Jess is going to let me lead a little bit, which is fine. But the reason I chose this is because, I am a person who works in the creative field. And also, I had a similar conversation on a separate podcast last week. So not mine, somebody else's. So all this stuff is kind of in my brain, and I think it's a really interesting thing to talk about. So I have 3 talking points because, you girl came prepared. Yeah, she does. So let's jump into it with starting with what is the definition of creativity? So Jess, if I said to you, how do you define creativity? What would you say?
I would say it's something that lights you up. Something you feel passionate about. It doesn't come from a place of, boundaries or restrictions or putting things into a box. It's just something that flows freely and comes from within you.
Love it. Do you define as a creative person?
Yes. Yes.
And how does that show up for you? I don't know the answer, but for the sake of the podcast, how does that show up for you?
Oh, man. I mean, in so many ways, speaking, writing, I do arts, I do crafts. But honestly, it is very connected to my spirituality as well. So, yeah. I don't know if you're one of those people that feels like you have several different creative outlets. Yeah.
I actually had a chat with a book coaching client the other day, and I said, we were talking about his work, and we were talking about the power of imagination. And I said to him, is there a difference between, is creativity just in your head, or is it coming from elsewhere, and does it matter? And everyone kind of goes, when I say that, because I believe, and it's just my opinion for what it's worth, but I believe that all creativity is channeling.
Interesting.
Because I think imagination comes from somewhere.
Yeah. I've never really thought of that, honestly, like that it comes from somewhere. I always kind of felt like it just was a part of, like, a meshed almost in my soul.
Maybe it's both. And maybe that's say, does it matter? But I just think it's interesting because I feel, how many times have you and I gone, oh my God, inspiration's hit out of nowhere?
Yeah.
That's more than just our brain, potentially.
Yeah. I would agree with that, actually. I do. And I think that sometimes, you can wake up having dreams, you can have visions, you can just have downloads of creativity. And also your creativity can also be webbed around your experience that you've had.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I define creativity as creating something from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, the reason I say all this is because what's one of the key things that we hear time and time again? People go, I am not creative. And what they mean by that is, I cannot draw, I cannot paint, I cannot sing.
Yeah.
And I call crap on that. I was going to say something else, but I call crap on that because for me, creativity, people who can put outfits together are creative. People who are interior designers are creative. People who are hair stylists are creative. People who are gardeners are creative. Creativity is not just pen to paper.
Yeah. Well, I think that also the thing about it is not trying to restrict it. I mean, we are a species that really does thrive on trying to be perfect, trying to bring perfection. And it's almost like beauty or art. It's very subjective, So what some people would look at as art, like if you painted something and it looked like just splatters of paint, people would be like, okay, well, that looks like crap. It's very messy. But others would be like, wow, that's beautiful, So I think it's subjective. I think that people are naturally hard on themselves anyways.
Yes, this is true, which kind of really brings me into another point, which I'll talk about in a minute, which is imposter syndrome. But yeah, I mean, for me, and it'd be interesting to hear your relationship with creativity and growing up. I mean, I've always loved drawing and painting and being arty in that way. And you know that your girl loves to write. Like, books have been my life forever, and that's why I now write them. But yeah, creativity for me is always been in those. Oh, and I danced, of course, as well. I had dance lessons for like 18 years. So yeah, they are my outlets. But I started, I mean, my first dance lesson was 2, I think. My mum took me to ballet class when I was 2, I think around that age. And it was a ex-retired professional ballerina not from the UK. Her name was Nesta Bellis, and she wasn't from the UK. But just remember, so this was been like 1983, 84, and she had a cane, not like a big wooden cane, but like a switch, like a thin piece of wood. And if your knees were not straight, she come and smack you on the bum with this piece of wood. I have knobbly knees. My knees naturally stick out. I can't help it. I've tried for like years to get a fully straight leg. It ain't happening.
I guess you got smacked on the bum quite a bit.
Yeah, but I didn't tell my mom what was happening. I just was like, I don't like ballet. So I went and did disco dancing instead, which was much more me.
Yeah. Well, ballet is so, like it's very refined and you have to have form and it is all about the movements and everything. I think that disco dancing is definitely something where you can just kind of get out there and let it shine, let it come out.
Exactly. Although when I had trumpet lessons for a while when I was a teenager, and my trumpet teacher went to me, "Did you see ballet when you were younger?" And I went, "Yeah, why?" And he went, "Look at your feet." And I was stood in third position naturally. So
waiting for somebody to pop out with a little wooden stick.
Yeah.
You have PTSD over that. Somebody says stand up straight, you're like into a pose. I don't know, ballet. I never was into ballet.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, in terms of your childhood, have you always been creative?
Yes. I like to write a lot when I was younger. I have poetry and stories. And I was also somebody who could feel very creative in my mind without actually doing anything with it. So I would create stories in my head. Like one of my favorite things to do is funny because I was just talking about this on a reading on my channel. But one of my favorite things to do growing up would be to sit in my driveway and watch the neighbors come and go and like create all kinds of stories about what they were doing. Like they were spies or they were bank robbers or they were princes or princesses that were on the run from their country, and I made it my business to like just basically document when they left their house, when they would return, who would come and knock on the door. I don't know if that counts, but
yeah, it does.
My mind has always been everywhere.
You're creating something from nothing. So daydreaming, creating these stories in your head is still creation, right? I mean, I hope that they weren't true because that's a lot of things to do in one day for your neighbors.
I feel like creating something from nothing should be the name of my biography because it fully encompasses every aspect of my life. My success, my relationships, my sanity. What's for dinner? What's for dinner tonight? Creating something from nothing. There you go, Katie. You figured it out. We figured out the name of my biography.
I love that. You heard it here first, right? If you ever write her biography, then that's exactly what's going to be called.
God.
Oh, goodness me. Oh, I love it. I love it. I mean, one of the things that I always come to, I think, with children and creativity is how education is not helpful.
Yeah.
And I know this from obviously been a kid myself a long time ago, but I was there. And then being a mom of 3, but also been a teacher. So I was an English and drama teacher for my sins. And, having to watch how education in both of our countries really just washes people's creativity. It's like, it doesn't feel like it's as nurtured and seen as important as like maths, science, computers now. It just doesn't feel like people really care the same way.
Yeah, I think it's that's how it is in a lot of things with life. Yeah. Like we really do focus on what's logical, what's reasonable, what we can see in front of us, and so our creative side, our spiritual side, is not really nurtured.
Sad though. I mean, I saw a quote once. I know it's cheesy, but I don't care. I love it. It said, "Earth without art is just eh."
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But I mean, the story that I tell a lot, but that's because it really demonstrates how education doesn't help creativity. So like I say, very much creative passion. So I loved English, music, drama, art, all of that. My comfort zone. And so there's an exam system in the UK called GCSE, which stands for General Certificate of Secondary Education. And so it's the exams you do when you're 16. And it's like people want to leave education at that point. It's like everyone has to do their GCSEs. And you have your core subjects of obviously maths, English, science, blah, blah. You also have chosen subjects. And so one of the ones I wanted to choose was art, obviously. Now I went to an all-girls school. It wasn't super posh, it wasn't paid school, but it was called a grammar school, so it was a little bit posh. You had to pass the exam to get into it, And so as such, they obviously saw themselves as they wanted to do it slightly differently than other schools, right? So they only had 20 places on the art course. Right. So this is in a year group of I think there was 92 girls in my year, 20 places on art. So she decided in her infinite wisdom, Miss Brain, her name was, which for an art teacher is a very strange name. But anyway, she decided that she was going to have a small exam to get onto the art course. Sure. So we had to sit in the art room for hours. I can't remember what we did. It was drawing or painting something. I don't remember. And the next day there was a note pinned on the front of her door with everybody's, not just who was on the course, but the rankings. It's like some kind of talent show, And so you could also see where you came. And the girl was number 21. And at that moment, and I swear to God, talk about timing, as I looked and I was really disappointed, she opened the door and she looked me dead in the face. I was 15 and she went, "The problem is, Kate, you're just not good enough." Horrible.
I love how we both did the same face at the same time. Like, I do not approve.
Isn't that horrible? Say to a 15-year-old girl, again, you're right, art is subjective. That's why I used to actually dislike teaching English in a way, is because who am I to say that a story is good? Apart from spelling, grammar, all that stuff. But in terms of idea, who am I to say it's a good story?
Yeah. This is why I have a love-hate relationship with teachers.
I know.
Because it's like they can be so soul-crushing sometimes.
Yeah. They break and they don't realize the power of their words. Most of them don't. To the point that for years, that phrase was in my head. And although I let myself do other things, I wouldn't let myself pick up a paintbrush for years, even though I wanted to. There was a real call in my heart to paint. I wouldn't let myself do it because that old core belief of you're just not good enough kept circling back. And it wasn't until about 18 months ago, I finally let myself do it. And just because I thought, if it's crap, I'm not going to show anybody. And I loved it. I loved it. And not necessarily to be an artist and sell, just for me, just because it was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah, and your art's great. You should do it more often and show it off more often.
Thank you.
It's
just joyful. And I say it's something because that's the thing with creativity, isn't it? We live in this world where everything with capitalism and consumerism is, make something to sell.
Yeah.
How can you turn this into money? But creativity, it is the doing is as important as the product.
Yes. And that is actually something that has been part of my journey.
Yeah.
Significantly, because I am somebody who bounces around to things. I mean, one week I'm doing mosaics, the next week I'm painting flower pots, the next week I'm learning how to make the flower pots, then I'm doing stained glass, then I'm doing body art. It's one thing, I'm just always jumping around. And if I share any of my what I've created onto social media, one of the first things I will receive is people saying, "If you sold that, I'd buy it." And it's and that's great, but it's not why I do it.
No.
Do it because I enjoy it, and money is the furthest thing from my mind when it comes to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there are some people obviously that do have a successful career being an artist or making crafts or whatever, and that's awesome. But it shouldn't. I don't think it should be your main why as to why you do it.
Yeah. Well, the thing about this, and we've talked about this a couple times, is when you take your passion and you turn it into something that you're going to make money off of, it starts to feel like a job.
Yeah.
And then the pressure starts to come on you.
Yeah.
And then it's not as fun anymore, because is this going to sell? Are people going to want this? It's attached now to your living, your well-being, as far as like, money. So I don't know how I feel about it, because I don't want to ever tell people to not go after their creative passions and turn it into a career, because some people are meant to.
Yes, absolutely. I just think if everybody leads with, well, I'm only going to do it if I can make a business, or I can sell whatever I make at the end of it, then you're taking away from the joy of it. That's it.
And really. I think you have to be mindful and keep yourself in check. I know that I do that with my my readings and everything, because if I catch myself thinking, okay, well, are people going to view this? That's like, back up. That's the wrong way that we're going here. It doesn't matter if people view it or not. The people that are meant to see it will see it. And that's the mantra that I have to keep in my head. So you can really get caught in like that tough cycle. It's like
Yeah, well, I say that the capitalist hamster wheel has got us all trying to keep pace. And sometimes it like I say, it takes away the focus, I think, in certain places. Not all the time. Money is important. It's the world we live in. But it takes away, like I say, passion and joy. Then I think it's conversation everyone needs to have with themselves.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if you're doing it for a living.
Yeah.
Or you're going to put it out on social media.
Yeah.
The court of public opinion can be very harsh.
Oh, yes.
And so you have to be willing to be put under that microscope and be dissected, and not everybody's going to like it and get it. And it's not about if people like it or they get it. It's about if you like it or you get it. It's funny, because that's been something that has been on my mind a lot, that I've been kind of like processing and just thinking, is being process oriented versus results oriented. And I feel like that goes along with anything that you're doing, really, So
yeah. I mean, I know it's dead cheesy again, but the journey is as important as destination. It will teach you so much. As somebody who helps people to write books, I have watched, there's like 24 books now through that process, and I have watched what actually just writing does to people, how it's almost like therapy in some ways. Depends what book it is. But it also helps them process, it helps them heal, it helps them see things differently. Like, it connects you to yourself in a different way. Creativity, I think, is so much more powerful than just, oh, that's a pretty picture. I think it does things in a way that the mind struggles sometimes to access by itself.
Yeah. And it's interesting too with what you do, because you get to see all sides of things. And so then you see how somebody will come to you with this, which is essentially their baby.
Yeah.
So, what there is like something from their soul. It is a very vulnerable moment that they're coming through. But then you'll get to see like that pressure that takes over them to be perfect.
Oh, darn.
And the perfectionism, I think, is something that when you're helping anybody create anything, whether it's books or artwork or music, we can be so hard on ourselves.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We will see every little detail that we perceive as flaws.
But you can't see it clearly. You're too close to it. It's like looking, you get like a pair, go with me. I have an analogies for everything. It's like, you get a pair of socks that's like, say that you've got, I don't know, Mickey Mouse socks. Okay. And you're looking at those socks inside out. So all of the pattern looks messy and looks tatty and looks all over the place. You can see it's Mickey Mouse, but it's not a good picture of Mickey Mouse. That's how you see your creativity.
Yeah.
Everybody else sees the socks the right way around, because they're not emotionally attached to it. You're too close to the work you're producing, which is why sometimes it is not necessarily asking everybody, because don't ask the question if you don't want to hear the answer, but it's asking people that you trust, that can genuinely give you, hold space for you. And if they are going to criticize, it is constructive feedback. It's not just like, well, that's fucking shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, and that's what's really hard, I think, about when you're taking like your creativity to somebody else to get their opinion, because is any kind of criticism valid when we look at it from the eyes of this being subjective anyways?
Yeah.
So would any criticism even be valid? I don't know, but I know I've had people come to me with their artwork. I've had people share their music with me. I've had people share things with me where I'm like, wow, that is incredible. You are talented. That is very, I wish I had that kind of talent in my thumb that you have in your whole body, And they'll be like, oh, no, it's crap. And I messed up on the line here and this was faded or this isn't right. Or it's just like people don't see it, they don't see it.
And of course, we've been through this together because I helped you write your book, which is what kind of set me off on this book coaching journey that I'm on. And it was really interesting. I remember when we talk about imposter syndrome. So you initially approached me and you said, Katie, I've got this idea for a book. And, I've got some other content together, but I haven't got the time. At that point, you were working full time for somebody else. Obviously, you've got your 2 kids. You're a single mom. I just don't have the time. If I pay you, can I give you everything and can you put it together for me and publish it? And my initial reaction was, oh my God, that's amazing. And me, don't be silly. I can't do that. Me, no, right? But sometimes it's not that we need external validation, although that's an argumentative point, I think. But sometimes it requires somebody to see you in the way that you struggle to see yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Because I figured you would be perfect for that because you're already a writer. You already know how to publish things. You know about editing. You know about formatting. And I wildly underestimate myself when it comes to anything technology wise.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I really do. But this whole podcast experience with me now doing the editing and stuff has really given me a boost of confidence. So, but yeah, I just felt like, it would be a no-brainer almost to bring it to you,
Thank you. I mean, that's how imposter syndrome works, right? And the imposter syndrome, I mean, it can come in many different formats, but it's essentially of like, me? No. You'll find out that I don't know what I'm doing. You'll find out that I'm not as good as you think I am. I'm waiting to be found out constantly, right? That's what imposter syndrome is. And it's funny you talk about perfectionism. I had one client who will remain nameless for her sort of privacy. And she was working with me on a book idea, and it was a really good idea. And it's not something I'd witnessed before. It was a spiritual book, but it was a take on it that I'd not seen before. And it was really interesting. And she kind of handed in, I want to say, probably about a third, maybe, nearly half of the first draft. And I read it, as I always do, and I made notes, and we had a call, and I gave her my feedback. And I could say, yes, 90% of it I loved. But again, my job is to go, this is how you make it better, right? Because it's a first draft. It's not going to be perfectionism. Perfection doesn't exist anyway, but there's going to be things to work on. That's the whole point. Even Stephen King writes first drafts, it's normal. So I'm telling her this feedback, and she got really quiet, and her energy lowered, and I went, are you okay? And she went, I just wanted you to say that it was ready to publish. And I was like, well, explain what I've explained to you. And I said, look, it's really, really good. I just want it so that it's the best it can be. Anyway, unbeknownst to me, she hadn't told me she sent it off in that format to a publishing house in the UK. And of course, they came back and said it wasn't ready. And so she abandoned the whole project. It broke my heart because it would have been an amazing book. But like I say, the pressure she was putting on herself to be perfect, it was too much.
Yeah. And that's really sad, And I was just about to say, and it kind of ties into the story that you were saying with your process of watching you have came up across roadblocks in this. You came up across things where you're like, Jessica, I don't know if I can figure this out. I don't know this problem, or, the site that you're using isn't working or something's going on, but you've overcome every single time. And that is what tenacity will get you, right? Yeah. Sticking through it.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately what that client just didn't have.
Yeah.
Could not face the adversity. Her shadow was too big because everything that she already felt about herself was getting reflected back to her, and it was too much. We
Absolutely.
have to, and that's something that I talk about a lot with my clients, and it's so important. It's possibly one of the most important things is releasing the idea of toxic shame. There's nothing wrong with you, right? And
Yeah.
that's so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's I think because creativity is so personal, like you said, I mean, people have called me their book doula. Like I literally, it is like giving birth to their baby. So because it's so personal, they see it as a reflection of themselves. So when they get criticism or rejection, they take it really, really personally. And you know, and I know that I've experienced that. So in 2020, I published with a publishing house a book. It was called Self Love Pledge, and I was very blessed that my publisher. This was my second book with them, and I was super happy, so excited. Got to go to London the day before to Watkins Books, one of the oldest bookstores in the country, in the world, I think. And I gave a talk on the themes of the book. I also got to sign copies. So it was like an unofficial launch, and it was filmed and it was put on their YouTube channel. And I'm like on clouds 9, 10, 11. I'm so like, I'm flying, right? I'm so happy. Come home on the train and went to bed. Didn't get home to about like 11:30 or something, going to bed. I wake up in the morning and I literally, now bear in mind, just now about 5 hours between us, give or take. And my phone, there's about, what, 20 messages on my phone? And I'm like, what the hell, right? What has gone on? People who shall remain nameless, because yes, had come in the comments of that video and attacked me and called me a liar and called me all the names under the sun. And Jess, as my best friend, ride or die for life, was defending me to the hilt.
It was ridiculous.
You were great. I read
was
them,
ridiculous.
and you were like a bulldog. You were like,
I go hard for mine, first of all, and everybody knows that. Okay. I'm cusping with Taurus. I'm literally not responsible. Okay, for it. I have no control over it. If you mess with the bull, you get the horns every time. But no,
yeah.
people, people who sit around and do nothing, they have lots of time to talk. They have lots of time to speak on things that have nothing to do with them.
Absolutely. So anyway, in the end, the book company turned comments off, probably for the best. And the book came out. It was doing really well. I got loads of positive feedback, blah, blah, blah. And life continued. 15 months later, bear that number in mind, 15 months later, I am taking my twins on a mini vacation down to Cornwall in the south of the country. We were supposed to go the previous year, but, COVID. And the week before, it's like you're back and forth to the store. You keep forgetting things, trying to pack. It's a bit mad. And I'm pushing a car across the car park and my phone is going. And I'm like, I think it's my mom. I'm like, I'll ring her back in a minute. And I get to the car and I look at my phone and there's a voicemail. And the voicemail basically says, we've had an email and someone is threatening to sue you for libel. And my heart fell into my feet. You talk about writing stories in your head. In my head, I am now in an orange jumpsuit behind glass and my children having to visit me in prison. I do worst case scenario really well, right? So that's in my head. Luckily, the store's like 5 minutes in the car up there. So I don't know how I drove home, but I drove home. Brought the bags in here, immediately got on the phone and I was like, what's happened? And he said, yeah, this person has written this email and said they've just found out about the book and they're really upset, blah, blah. And I hadn't actually named the person in the book, but, obviously they knew it was them. And I said, well, about the YouTube video. And he said, when was that? I said, it was 15 months ago. And he went, that's important because you can only bring libel within 12 months of publication. And he's saying that he's just found out, but that shows that he knew, right? So I'm like, So I went in, I asked him to turn the comments back on. I took screenshots of everything, sent it to the publisher. They said, oh, yeah, it's fine. There won't be a legal case here. It'll be absolutely fine. Go on vacation and try not to worry about it. Sure. Okay. I'll just try and forget about it, right? Anyway, went away, having a nice time with the kids. And it's like in these holiday parks, Wi-Fi is like all over the place, but I managed to get it by the swings and stuff. So the kids are playing one day and I'm checking my emails because, I'm self-employed. And there was an email from the publisher to say that although there was no legal case, because it didn't go anywhere, it literally did not go anywhere. They decided they were going to drop the book and they gave me the rights back. And the reason I talk about this is when I talk about creativity as personal, because that was my memoir. And it just broke me. Because I felt in that moment like I had been rejected.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Yeah. It's really sad. I don't know. That whole situation was so crazy. And it's hard to talk about it because we obviously don't want to name names and
we
stuff.
don't want to kick the hornet's nest, but yes, it was awful. And people have said to me since, are you going to, obviously the book belongs to me, are you going to republish it? And I've said for years, as you know, yeah, I'll republish it. Yes, I'll rewrite it. Yeah. And I realized now that I wasn't ready because I had to do a lot of healing and processing around that whole situation. I just wasn't ready. But the good news is I am rewriting it. And said person is not in it at all.
Yeah. It's like, if you don't want to exist, we can take care of it.
Fine. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, it was a whole journey, but I use it now because obviously coaching other people in writing, I'm like, just be careful putting people in your book.
It just makes me wonder, like, because you have like these celebrities and these famous people that write their memoirs, and people are definitely in those books.
Yeah,
and actually, I mean, yeah, they do, but I mean, I don't know if that's actually would have held up as much as the person wanted it to hold up in court. Yeah, it's like, you know what I mean? It wasn't exactly like you said, like they, physically abused you or robbed a bank or did anything illegal. Like, you didn't say any of that. It was basically their ego getting bruised, and this person's ego is in charge. So
yeah,
that was enough.
Yeah, it was. And that's where I can say creativity, yes, it can be tricky when you're dealing with other people.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why you have to kind of know your own passion and your own intention as to why you're doing it.
Yeah, because there's always going to be somebody who's going to try to take the wind out of your sails.
Absolutely. Some people just don't like it when you shine,
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's just, that's in any situation though, but because, Lord knows I deal with that with what I do, with just random people and comments and emails and just telling me all these things. And it's just like, if you don't, nobody forces you to watch, read, be a part of, tune into, believe. Like, nobody forces you to do any of these things. I don't know.
It is crazy. But that's the world we live in, right? Everyone has an opinion. And it's easier than ever to share that opinion and say that I'm right and you're wrong. So I do that a lot on social media. I get annoyed with snobbery. So like music snobbery. People are like, oh, you listen to that. Oh my God, it's so sad. I only listen to this because this is better. And you're like, how can you say that these vibrations of sounds in my ear are better than the ones that you are listening to? It's just sound. It's just music. I hate music snobbery.
Yeah, well, it's like, imagine people having different tastes. I know it's a novel thought here. Like, not everybody being the same. I know that's so crazy, right? That people are different and have different tastes. That's insanity. Somebody.
We are bringing the tea on this podcast. We are dropping truth bombs.
I mean, it's just, one of my things that I can't stand, since you have your thing over there, what we have over here is freedom of speech. Well, it's my right. Okay? It's my right. I have freedom of speech. And it's like, yeah, but you're not free of the consequences of that speech. You can say whatever you want, but people are also allowed to say something back, or there's consequences for what you say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every action has a consequence. If you can live with the consequence, then go for it. But don't be surprised when people have a reaction.
Yeah, if you're going to be a sensitive little bitch, maybe you shouldn't have that. Maybe you shouldn't be talking so loud. I don't know.
Oh, sorry. I didn't expect to say that. That was funny. If you're like, this podcast, this conversation has sparked something in your brain, where you're like, do you know what? I have been creative and I kind of haven't done it for a while, or I've never really let myself be creative before, but maybe I should have a go. I come at it as much as I can with an energy of playful curiosity.
Yeah.
I think that's the opposite of perfectionism, is because you have to be willing to be crap at something. You're going to be a beginner, especially if you've not done it before. Like you tried pottery, right? And what you made was fantastic, but there was no guarantee. You could have been crap, but you learn, right? You get better at it the more you do it.
I went through like 5 balls of clay. You know, I had the instructor give the biggest sigh and eye roll when she found out I was left-handed. You know, and then when I was like complaining because of my left-handedness, she's like, I'm not responsible for your deformities. It was a joke, and I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious because it's like, yeah, my mom would agree. My mom used to always like, she would not like, I wanted to learn knitting.
Oh, we talked about this. I know.
Everything was backwards. She's like, I'm literally showing you and watching you do what I'm doing, and it's coming out backward. Why is this? Because of my left-handedness. So, you know, I would say to expand your vision of what creativity is as well, because I would say that people who come to you or me, but mostly you, saying that they've never been creative before. Well, what about when you got to think about what's for dinner?
Yeah.
That's using your creativity right there.
Yeah. Or if you're a business owner, you've had to create a whole ass business, or if you've had to decorate your house, or
you're putting on your makeup.
Anything where you're taking something and you're making something else, it is creativity. And you may not do it how I do it or Jess does it. That doesn't mean you're not creative.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that you're not good at it either. I think the whole, I think we talked about this a lot, but just to reiterate, the whole judgment of whether you're good or not at something needs to be taken out of the equation. Because creativity is not about winning, failing, being perfect, being flawed.
It's about joy. It's about enjoyment. Yeah. And I liken it a lot to exercise. So like exercise shouldn't be a punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise shouldn't be a chore. So you should find something that you actually enjoy because you're going to do it more, right?
Yeah.
Well, creativity is the same. If you're coming at it because you think you should, and if this is what other people do, but it's not really connecting with you and you're not really feeling it, well, it's a punishment.
Oh, gosh. Don't get me started on the comparison game.
Mm-hmm. What was that?
That is so toxic. Like, it really is. Like, comparing yourself to other people is so toxic. And we've all been there. I've been there. You've been there. And it's really easy, too, when you're putting your work out there, especially like on social media, or even if you're a business that's competing with other businesses. I mean, it just, you know, it's so easy to look at what other people are doing, the results that other people are getting, how easy it feels or seems for them.
Yeah.
And then to look at yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because all you see, if you think about the whole process as a massive iceberg in the ocean, right? So all you're seeing is the tip of the iceberg above the water. You're not seeing the massive thing beneath the waves of training, sacrifice, doing things for free, staying up late, all of these things go into the success. But if you just focus on what you perceive as the success, you're going to think they had it easy. And I can tell you from somebody who's been living this life for the last 15 years, I've done a lot of things to the bottom of the iceberg.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and that's the thing, is that people meet you where you're at. They don't meet you where you've been.
No. Absolutely.
So like for me and you, we've been in each other's lives for over a decade now. So we've seen each other at our absolute lowest and then at our absolute highest. We've seen, you know, all of where we're at right now, how much work it took, and internal work, not just physical work, to get to where we both are now.
Yeah.
But somebody who just comes into our life today, they see two people who got, you know, thriving things going on and have made names for themselves and is this and is that. But, and then it's like, oh, well, it's easy for you. It wasn't easy for me. And it's actually still not easy, by the way. That both of us still doubt ourselves every single day at some point.
There's a really good quote, and I can never remember the whole quote, but it's by Teddy Roosevelt, and it's called The Man in the Arena. And it's essentially that it's not the one on the outside criticizing. It is the man in the arena with his blood smeared with dirt and blood, and that even if he fails, he does so daring greatly. And that's the point, and that's never more applicable than it is today with social media.
Yeah.
You know, if people come to me and be like, luckily it hasn't happened, because honestly, this would be my reply. Oh, writing a book. That's not really a business, is it? It's really easy to write a book. Anyone can write a book. How many books have you written?
Yeah.
How many books have you written? If it's that easy, why isn't everybody doing it?
Yeah.
Right? If it's that easy to go and, I don't know, write a whole ass musical or create a whole painting or, I don't know, whatever it is, why isn't everybody doing it?
Yeah.
You know, it's what matters. Even if, like you say, it's not successful by conventional capitalist standards, the very fact that you've done it, the very fact that you've put yourself out there and tried is enough reason to be proud.
Well, I think that people who are really harsh in their criticisms of other people's creativity or what work they're putting out there, it's like knowing what's driving the vehicle here. Is it the ego? Is it the shadow? Is it the light? Because I find that some people will get triggered by people standing in their authenticity because they don't feel like they can do it.
Yeah.
So to make them feel better about the fact that they haven't went out there and took the leap and believed in themselves, they try to tear somebody else down. That's why you told me a lot, and I really agree with this, that if somebody on social media or in your life or wherever is triggering you, whether they're meaning to or not, don't watch that person. Don't tune into their work. Don't click onto their page. You should be surrounded by people who inspire you. And and I would say, to add to that, if everybody is triggering you, we need to look in.
Yes, absolutely. Because you wouldn't be triggered if there wasn't something in you to be triggered, right? Yeah. So, for example, let's say that you and I both we had a painting competition. I don't know, let's just put that. And we both made a painting and we put them on social media. And one of us got quite good feedback and the other person didn't. Now, I can go, well, I don't know these people. Let's say I didn't get good feedback. I go, well, I don't know these people. Don't mean anything to me, right? I don't care. Whereas potentially, maybe if somebody else got bad feedback, they would internalize it, take it really personally, take it as a reflection of themselves, and not react well. So I'm saying not everything is a reason to be triggered necessarily, but if you are triggered, why are you triggered? What is it about the situation that is triggering you, and what is that telling you?
Yeah. But it's uncomfortable, though, to like shine the light on those shadows.
Sure, that's the only way we heal, babe. You know that.
Well, yeah, but that's why a lot of people don't, though. That's why a lot of people, they make choices or decisions, or they live through their triggers, but they don't want to think deeper.
Yeah.
To like, okay, well, why is this triggering me? Because then we have to, again, tackle that toxic shame that's telling us that something's wrong with us, because deep down inside, that's what you believe.
Yes.
We need to tackle that thought.
Absolutely. That's why I wouldn't let myself write for years, is because I genuinely, again, believed I wasn't good enough. And it was when I wrote my first book in 2013, 2012, it came out in 2013, not that it matters. I had to really face that. It's like, just because other people have not always seen your light, does that mean it doesn't exist? If people don't like what you create, does that mean you're a bad creator? I had to really sit with these things and really like stop and think about my own truth and my own journey and my own passions, not through the lens of other people, but what was true for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, people are always going to find something to complain about, or you're not going to be able to please everybody. I think it was Vita Von Teese that said you could be the juiciest peach, and there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like peaches. Something.
Yeah, I love that quote. It's so true. You know, it's not about you being the best and trying to please everybody, because you can't. If you aim to please everybody, you're actually a watered down version of yourself.
And you're going to be really stressed out.
Yeah. But having haters or people that don't like what you're doing is not a bad thing. It shows actually you're doing the right thing, because it means that you are in your niche, you are in your lane, you are triggering people.
I mean, I cannot tell you, like, some of like it's funny because I'll see it in real time sometimes in like my comment section. Like I'll get a comment of somebody being like, why are you giggling like a mental patient?
No, I've lived in a mental institution. You obviously they have. How would you know?
Like, they're gonna find me. Okay, I broke free. Duh. No, but I'll have people be like, why are you giggling like a mental patient? And then directly under that comment, I'll have somebody being like, your laugh is infectious. I don't ever stop.
Sorry, I am listening. It's just they'll find me.
I don't want to have to eat mashed up peas anymore. Although you actually like that over there, mushy peas.
Mushy peas. That's a very
I'm going to try that when I come over there.
Yeah, yummy.
Guys,
yeah,
I have heard for over a decade now, I've heard so much different types of food that I was just gonna be like, this girl does nothing but eat. Like when I go, like we're eating constantly.
We're gonna have to like plan out the week's meals. I'm gonna be like, right, on Monday we're eating this. Get to try everything, right?
Yeah,
you get it'd be
over there. They have a biscuit at McDonald's, a Mackey's as they call it, which I think is so amazing. But they have a biscuit with just bacon on it.
See, again, my brain has to now calculate what you've just said, because to me, a biscuit in England is what you would call a cookie. So in my head, what I've just done is a cookie with bacon on it, which doesn't work either.
What is that thing that you always get if you have breakfast there? It's a bacon and it's like a biscuit, or is it on a bun?
It's on a bread roll, but you would call that. So yeah, it's a bacon roll.
Yeah, a bacon roll.
Yeah. Like what? What's yummy? Well, it depends if you like your fat kind of.
Well, yeah.
Also, well, bacon's different as well. We're getting onto a whole different topic, but yeah.
Yes, you call it gammon or whatever, right?
Well, gammon is thick bacon. It's like a doorstop. It's really wedged thing going on.
A doorstop. That sounds appetizing.
I know, but it's really juicy and it's like a big thick piece. It's yummy. You can have it with either pineapple on, which I don't have because pineapple shouldn't be on meat, or a fried egg.
Yeah. And like also because of her, I know the difference between a shepherd's pie and a cottage pie now.
Yes. Yes.
I know the difference between what I just call sketty sauce for her is bolognese.
Bolognese, spaghetti bolognese, darling. Don't you know?
Like it's sketty.
I swear. What we have to do, and maybe this will be like when it happens, it will happen, is that we'll bring you here and just film us walking around the store, and I'll do the same in America. Because I guarantee you're going to be like, what is this? What is this?
People, if I go and visit over there, people are going to instantly know that I'm American. Like just instant. I mean, without me even speaking, because obviously my voice would give it away. But I feel like our kids are like, what do they talk about all day? It's like, sketty.
Yes, it's true. I mean, the first time that I said to you, oh, I'm going to go out in the garden, and you were like, garden? I was like, yeah, my garden. And you were like, I think of garden like a stately home, like gardens. And I was like, no, the backyard we call garden. That's my garden.
Yeah. And we call it the backyard, obviously, or a lawn.
So even now, I Americanize some of the things I say. So I'll say I'm taking the trash out. I'll go like, oh, the kids. Like I've been talking to trying to move house, and I'd be like, oh, I've talked to my realtor, call it estate agent. I have to Americanize when I talk to you so that you understand what I'm saying.
See, and I didn't realize you were putting in that much effort. I appreciate that. I figured you just were. That was
rise or die, girl. You know what I mean? It's all good. Anyway, we've been well off topic, but look, essentially, if, like I say, you're kind of curious about your creativity and thinking that maybe I could, maybe, then I do just encourage you just to be curious and play. Approach it with a childlike kind of innocence and just see what you want to try. There is no expectation. There is no finished perfection. It's just play.
Yeah. I would say if you're absolutely not sure, go buy a 24-pack of crayons and a coloring book. And start there. Yeah. And every single time your mind tells you the sky should be blue, pick a different color.
Mm-hmm. Or go and get a whole 24 tubs of Play-Doh and make something pretty.
Play-Doh. I'm like, flashbacks of my kids. Play-Doh's not allowed in this house, ma'am. Okay.
I know it gets everywhere. Anyway, just go and have fun, enjoy yourself, play, and yeah, we look forward to hearing about it. You don't have to share your things that you make, but at least tell us, are you letting yourself play and how you're finding it? We're interested,
Or if you just like listening to
that's fine. Too. Yeah, that's fine too, because we are slightly weird and wacky. That's fine. We vibe. And if you vibe, you tribe, as we always say. So, awesome beans. What are we talking about next week, my gorgeous?
We are going to delve into intuition. I really want to talk about this. Like, what is intuition? Where do we feel like it comes from? How can we utilize it in our lives, our everyday life?
Yes, and as always, I'm sure we'll have more stories to share because we have stories for days. So we'll be interested.
Also, like what the difference is between intuition and ego.
Ooh, yes, absolutely.
I write down a format so we can try to stay on target a little bit. I mean, I'm all cool with going with the flow, but I feel like we should like try to stay on point a little bit, like
We do for the most part, but hey, these tangents, they add the sprinkles of I don't know, magic on top.
I agree.
I was trying to think of a clever analogy. It wasn't working, so it's fine.
It's okay.
Anyways, guys, look, we will love you and leave you. Put you out your misery for now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting our channel. We really appreciate you. And like I say, come in the comments section. Let us know what you think. Make sure to give us a like, all that good stuff. And, we'll definitely see you on the next one.
Bye.